It being now the time posted for this meeting to commence, a regular meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Orleans is hereby called to order. Present are myself, Michael P. Myrick, Chair. Also, regular members, Ralph Soderstrom and Beth McCartney, who's also the clerk. Vice Chair, Matthew Cole, and William McCarthy, all regular members. Excused tonight is Gerald Mulligan, an associate member. For the record, as we speak, there may be two candidates interviewing with the Board of Selectmen, which will make our complement of 8 members, 5 regular and 3 associate, complete.
That's a record.
So, that's right. And thank you for those who have solicited and recommended any candidates. This is something that we need. All town boards need full participation, and I would, all of us would be grateful for that. That occurs here. Tonight, the agenda, we have 3 hearings, and they are numbers 1990, 1992, and 1993 are all present to proceed on those 3 hearings. By agreement of council, we will proceed with number 1992 first. This is the petition of
Kristen and Margaret.
This is the petition of Christian and Margot Minot for special permit and the alternative variance for the property at 53 Toby Lane in South Orleans, which is parcel 58 Orleans, map number 92. Is there any member of the board who has had communication with the applicant or any agent of the applicant or under circumstances which would result in a need for disclosure? Is there any member of the board aware of any circumstance which would result in a conflict of interest which would be prohibited by law? There's no positive response to either of those questions. Therefore, I declare the board indifferent to consider this application. Also present for the record is the board secretary and Sandy Stewart and the building commissioner of the town of Orleans, Brian Harrison. Ms. Flores.
Thank you very much.
For the applicant?
Yes, Sarah Toronto Flores for the applicant. Also with me on this application is David Little from Ryder and Wilcox, and the De Silvas are also here from the design team. We initially filed this a few months ago. I should interrupt myself and thank the chair for allowing to hear my application out of order. I have a hearing also this evening in Chatham, and also thank you to Attorney Zender and his clients for agreeing and consenting to allow me to go first. I appreciate that very much. We are in front of you this evening with an application to raise and reconstruct a single-family dwelling and a detached garage and an accessory cottage. The structure and the lot are both pre-existing non-conforming. The lot was created by 1957 subdivision plan. It contains over 80,000 square feet of lot area, only 55,716 square feet of upland. It, as I indicated and as shown on your site plan, already contains a single-family dwelling. Your site plan does contain an overlay where the existing dwellings are in orange and the proposed structures are in black solid line. We are raising and reconstructing these structures in their approximate existing locations. However, in so doing, we are making them more conforming in several respects. So the existing cottage, you'll see in the accessory cottage down here towards the water is pre-existing non-conforming in as much as it's only approximately 4 feet from the sideline and therefore encroaches significantly into that setback. The existing house location is conforming to setbacks, as is the existing garage structure. However, in combination, those square footages do exceed your 4,000 square foot requirement and therefore require a special permit that has not yet been ascertained or obtained from this town. We believe that the initial dwelling was constructed in the 1930s. It actually predated the creation of the lot. And therefore, it is pre-existing and never, its relief wasn't required at the time of construction, and it's never been obtained. Additionally, there is a pre-existing nonconformity with respect to the coastal setback, coastal bank setback. As you'll recall, your zoning bylaw requires that structures be set back 1.5 times their height from the top of the coastal bank. The coastal bank on this lot is actually defined by the flood elevation, which essentially runs through the accessory cottage, and so that cottage sits on the coastal bank, and therefore is in violation of that particular provision of your zoning bylaw. And the last existing nonconformity is that because the lot only contains 55,716 square feet of upland, and your bylaw requires 40,000 square feet of upland per dwelling unit or guest house. This lot is already, and these structures are already pre-existing non-conforming, as there's only 55,000 square feet of upland, and there are 2 existing dwelling units on the property, as well as this accessory garage. We are proposing, as I indicated, to raise and rebuild these structures. Initially, this filing was first made, I think, in June, and at that time, we were raising the garage and having a attached garage instead of a detached garage. It was going to be attached with a portico, and we were also raising and reconstructing this accessory cottage down below, which is a full dwelling unit. The initial proposal did include bedrooms over the attached garage. After and subsequent to the filing of the application, the Minots met with their architects and determined that it was a rather large structure. Its massing was something that they didn't prefer on the lot. They actually preferred the way the lot was and the structures were broken up as they existed, and that in fact it was more in keeping with the character of the lot as they wanted to develop it, and in fact the character of the more traditional Cape Cod design. So they abandoned that idea, revised their plans, and submitted to you an amended application with a detached garage in the location of the existing garage. It will have bedrooms, however, 2 bedrooms. The 2 bedrooms that were originally proposed here, as it was connected, are now going to be moved over here, and that means that garage will now be considered a guest house under your zoning bylaw, which also requires an additional 40,000 square feet of buildable upland. That particular provision applies to both dwelling units and guest houses. And as a result, they would need 120,000 square feet in lot area. So the pre-existing nonconformity relative to that lot area building coverage requirement is going to be intensified by this proposal, although actually the building coverage numbers, as I'll get into in a minute, are less than the original proposal that we filed a couple months ago, and we could have done without the additional special permit relief. So we're in front of you essentially requesting 3 specific forms of special permit relief. The first being the special permit requirement because our proposal will result in completed building coverage in excess of 4,000 square feet. It's going to be 4,391 square feet in area, which is I'm sorry, that's the existing coverage, which is 7.9% of the lot coverage. We're increasing it to 4,629 square feet, so going up 0.4% to 8.3% lot coverage. That's the first form of special permit relief. The second form of special permit relief is that 40,000 square foot of upland requirement that we discussed. We are intensifying that pre-existing nonconformity because that detached garage, we're putting bedrooms above it. It will now intensify that nonconformity. Your bylaw does allow that to be done by special permit. The second two of the four nonconformities were actually making them more conforming, so we don't need special permit relief for. The coastal bank setback, we're actually making better. Because it sits actually on the bank right now, we're 48 feet into the coastal bank setback. Once we move this particular structure, it's going to be off the top of the bank by some 8 feet, and therefore reducing the setback encroachment significantly. We are also eliminating altogether the side yard setback encroachment of the accessory cottage. It currently encroaches 21.1 feet into that side yard setback, and now we will be fully conforming there and eliminating it entirely. So that's a general overview of the special permit relief that we need. I think in my narrative I've gone through fairly in detail the performance standards that are required under your zoning bylaw for special permit relief. And I'd just like to briefly go through them now. The site, in order to gain a special permit, you need to make the finding that the proposal is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure, and apply several criteria in order for you to make that determination. The first of which is whether or not the size of the lot is adequate for its proposed use. As I've indicated before, it's an 82,000 square foot lot. Your coverage requirement is 15%, excuse me. And at 8.3% building coverage, we're still well under that 15% limitation, and therefore can satisfy that requirement. We believe that obviously the site is suitable for its proposed use. The site is residentially zoned, and we are not changing the use of the structure. Similarly, the proposal will not impact or alter existing traffic flow, nor the safety within the neighborhood. In fact, we think that we're improving that in as much as you'll notice that the driveway configuration has been changed to provide for greater distance between the inlet and the outlet of the driveway. It's a single-family residence. It will continue to do so, so we're not expecting any increase in traffic, but we will be improving those sight lines. The proposal will not also impact the neighborhood's visual character, nor its views and vistas. We're very, very careful on this site. There is a view easement that runs along the westerly side of the property, and it's depicted on the site plan. All construction will remain in its existing location and therefore not impede on those views or the view easement of the beneficial owners who reside across the street. We also think, again, that this particular proposal, as is sitting in front of you today, is much more in keeping with the visual character of not only this particular neighborhood, but also of the traditional Cape Cod style architecture, which you see throughout coastal areas in Orleans and, in fact, in this neighborhood. You'll see the gambrel style two-story structure, which differs, I think, pretty considerably from the existing structure, which is a ranch style, and has unbroken roof line. Here, I think you'll see the lovely design by the Holiness Savory folks. Breaks up that roof line and keeps the garage, I think, having it detached also keeps the massing of this particular structure on this lot broken up. We went around to the neighborhood and took photographs of surrounding lots to show that both its size and the form of architecture are in keeping with that design. Again, you'll see a lot of peaked roof lines and elevations that bring the eye down towards the lower elevations and really set the structures well in the coastal setting. And we believe that the revised plan more greatly reflects what should be at this particular location than the existing plan, which you see here is fairly old, certainly, but also fairly uniform in its appearance. Another thing in terms of looking at the improvements to groundwater quality and abutting coastal water resource areas, that's another one of your criteria in your bylaw. We did get Title V approval for the particular proposed structures, and significantly also got Conservation Commission approval back in June. There were a lot of benefits to this proposal from an environmental standpoint, including the elimination of a paved driveway that extended from Toey Lane all the way down to the existing cottage. You'll see that that's been really pulled back, and there's an impervious portion within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. All paved portions now of that driveway are above the Commission's jurisdiction. And we also added a significant landscaping plan that the Commission did approve at its hearing. I do have color photos, if any, color copies of this plan, if any of you are interested. But it, and what's not reflected here, but the order of conditions for the Conservation Commission approval included a requirement that we keep all areas below the 6-foot elevation in their natural state, allowing for a buffer zone directly adjacent to the coastal waters, and that will lend itself considerably to protecting the coastal waters that abut this particular site. All other public services, utilities, and public services to the site will remain the same. There's not going to be any increase or change in the noise or litter. Certainly no increase in over existing conditions. And so for all of those reasons, going through that criteria, we believe we've established here that this particular proposal is not going to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing proposal. We believe we meet the special permit requirements and have created a design that makes this particular lot and the structures on it more conforming to your bylaw, while not impinging or detracting from the objectives of your bylaw. So that said, I have already submitted something rather lengthy in writing that I'm sure you've all had an opportunity to read. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, as are, I know, the engineers and architects here today.
I think I would have liked to have seen or have included the order of conditions of the Conservation Commission. Has that been recorded in the Registry of Deeds yet?
I don't know that it was recorded, but it should have been filed with the original application. It might not have been filed with the amended because it had already been obtained. So there was definitely a copy.
It's not. I'll take a look. Similarly, the approval of the Board of Health. The idea being that since this is really the last stop before the issuance of a building permit, we like to have the file complete so that if there are any questions at this hearing, we're able to address them. Let me take a look and see if the Conservation Commission order of conditions is. This is not a barrier to our decision today. It's just a comment of mine.
Chairman, I have a copy of the Board of Health approval, and I'm sure I have a copy of the order of conditions. I'm just going through the file.
Then what is the date of the approval of the Board of Health, Mr. Little?
Here. Here's the order of conditions.
Oh.
That was filed with the original application back in June. The order of conditions. The Board of Health approval was obtained after, and that was not filed. So
this is the letter of the. Now, I needed a little help here. We're demolishing 3 buildings, and we're reconstructing 3 buildings. Does that mean that you would have needed to have 120,000 square feet of buildable upland?
Only because,
I'm wondering if you have to parlay it to all 3, even though one is a guest cottage? There's no distinction, is there?
yeah, the zoning bylaw, your zoning bylaw is very unique in Orleans in as much as it doesn't just require an amount of buildable upland per dwelling unit. It also includes guest houses, which I met with the building inspector, and he enlightened me in that regard. And because, and a guest house definition doesn't include a kitchen, so that there is no kitchen. It's just the same bedrooms that we could attach to the building and do as of right with no special relief. Because we're scooching them over, we're still not putting a kitchen in, but because they become detached, they're considered a guest house, and that provision of your bylaw in 16421, no, just 16420, excuse me, pulls them in and includes them in part of that requirement. We're already pre-existing non-conforming in as much as, although we have 82,000 square feet of lot area, we don't, that's not all upland.
No.
So we have 2 existing dwelling units and 55,000 square feet of upland. So we're intensifying that nonconformity, and that's where the request for zoning relief comes in.
Fine. Are there any questions from any members of the board? Mr. McCarthy?
Thanks for the question. I was looking through the the bylaw to check, but and it's just something in my memory that questions whether there's a limit on the number of dwelling units on a lot. 2.
6422.
And then clarify for me then where the
This is a
3
guest house. If it had a kitchen, I think we would run afoul of that provision.
I don't think the definition differentiates, right? The guest house is anything with bedrooms and toilet facilities.
That's right. If it had a kitchen, it would be the dwelling unit.
Didn't you say the guest house would still need 40,000 square feet?
The guest house, the existing guest house needs 40,000 square feet. The existing dwelling needs 40,000 square feet. Sorry, there is no existing guest house.
Existing
Sorry,
cottage.
accessory cottage.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, because that has a kitchen. So this
Yeah,
particular
that's
accessory
pre-existing
cottage-
non-conforming. I don't have a problem with that.
And that in combination with the house is pre-existing non-conforming. This, because these bedrooms are going to be over here instead of attached, is considered a guest house. And 16420 requires an additional 40,000 square feet of upland. From a visual, certainly external point of view, everything's going to look the same on the house, on the lot, as it exists now. This is slightly larger, but it's in the same general location as the existing garage. It's going to be a garage, albeit with bedrooms on top. This particular dwelling is almost in the exact same footprint and is in fact a smaller footprint than the existing dwelling. And this cottage gets smaller and is pushed back from the coastal bank, but is still in the same general location. So new structures, but
Just to follow on, though, I think part of my concern is sort of the degree of additional intensity, if you will, related to the upland issue. And I mean, we're going from what was a 6-bedroom property, let's call it, in total, to now an 8. And you had mentioned that there would be 120,000 total upland, square feet upland, and so we're talking about 55, 56 to 120. I mean, the concern to me is that and the design is great. I don't have any issues with most of your description. It's kind of a philosophical almost issue about the intensity of this.
Especially when, excuse me, Mr. McCarthy, especially when you compare it to the percentage of coverage, which is well within the limit. You see, the arithmetic works in favor of the applicant there.
Understood, yeah, except for that, yes, understood.
in our previous, and it's particularly incongruous, I think, when you compare it to our previous filing, which had greater building coverage area, it was over 9%. We're at 8.3% now. 9.1% building coverage, so bigger structure, but that could be done as of right with no intensity of the nonconformity. I did a little sketch of overlaying the existing proposal now with what was just proposed a month earlier where this particular relief wasn't requested, to sort of help you see that the buildings in pink are all existing.
Oh, it's
Thank you.
color-coded.
The buildings in orange are what was proposed last time and this time, so those haven't changed.
Why is the prior application that was never heard a reference point?
Because it can be done as of right, we wouldn't be requiring the additional need for relief. I requested a continuance and renoticing because it's an additional layer of relief that I didn't need to initially apply for because it could be done as of right. So it's just an illustration of the odd way that your particular bylaw is applying in this situation. It's a less impactful proposal from building coverage standpoint. It's going to be a smaller structure, and yet you need this additional relief. It's intensifying an existing nonconformity, but not in a way, I think, that really intensifies the density of the lot, nor its use, because you can do something here as of right. But what it does, I think, is, while making it smaller, also makes the whole design more in keeping with the original design. It's a pretty historic lot and area, in fact. The house going back to 1930. So I think breaking this up and not having this huge structure is more in keeping with what you want to see in this neighborhood. So it's,
Can I ask, though, I don't see on this one the bedrooms above the garage. If I may be missing it.
that's just the site plan. So the bedrooms above the garage were in the yellow part before. In the previous application, when the garage was
Don't move to this
attached, those 2 additional bedrooms were in the yellow. Now they're in the blue. Same bedroom count.
So when you say that prior application can be done by right, you're just referring to the third
Yes.
piece of relief. You still need a special permit
For the 4,000
relief
square
on
foot,
2 sections of the bylaw. It's the third. Do we have plans for the existing or the proposed garage?
Yes, you had them. You mean we have elevations and floor plans that were submitted. Here
I
are-
see the house and the guest house. I don't see the
that's the-
garage.
Guest house is garage.
Oh, there's 2.
Here
There's
is
a
the
cottage.
elevations for the garage, right here,
Okay.
and the floor plan for the garage is here. Garage on the bottom floor, and 2 bedrooms.
I used the wrong term, the cottage. Trying to catch up with you on the term. Okay, for some reason I'm missing that piece
Yeah, I
here.
am too.
Do you have plans for the existing
Yes.
garage?
The existing garage.
Now you're
Yep.
being tedious.
Yep. That was filed, and I suppose perhaps this was done as an amended application, so you should have both the original
Okay.
application
Thank you.
and the amendment, because to save paper with the amendment, we didn't duplicate. So I apologize, but I can put my finger on the existing packet. I only have one.
No, I just didn't go back to the old plans if we're saying they're in there. I must have it.
It should look like this, the existing cottage and house. Had a photograph
Yep.
and floor plan. Yeah, there you go. Second page.
Thank you.
Let the record reflect that the order of, copy of the order of conditions is contained in the zoning board's file.
Thank you.
So if I could, with reference to 16420, in the last sentence, sir, is, I understand the presentation, the 2 bedrooms above the proposed garage would be the relocated garage. Would neither be single-family dwelling, nor an accessory apartment, nor a guest house?
They will be a guest house.
The last phrase of that is that it shall not exceed 2. In no case shall the total number of single-family dwellings, accessory apartments, and guest houses on any lot in a residential district or on any lot in any other zoning district in which single-family dwellings, accessory apartments, or guest houses are permitted exceed 2. And I could be misreading the relationship between the presentation and that last sentence. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if inviting the building commissioner's input would be of assistance. I'd be,
Can you pose the question then?
without wanting to put you on the spot, do you have anything you want to comment on in relation to this question of 2 versus 3 in this case?
Well, I think only by one, depending how you apply Gale to it.
So.
You're adding a new non-conforming when you do it under Gale.
Thank you.
So I, in my application, and albeit I met with Brian, but didn't, I was looking at the first few sentences of 16420, not the last, saw this as an intensification of an existing nonconformity in as much as it's already nonconforming as to that 40,000 square foot buildable upland requirement. To the extent that last sentence, which I overlooked, is a new nonconformity. Your existing bylaw, which was adopted after the Gale decision, permits the creation of a new nonconformity, again, by special permit. So instead of the intensification of an existing nonconformity, I'd be asking you for a special permit for the creation of a new nonconformity, all related to the same construction, but a different line of the same provision.
But are we talking nonconformity within the context of the general requirements as opposed to requirements relating to nonconforming lots or structures?
Well, we were already seeking a special permit for pre-existing nonconformities with respect to the setbacks from the coastal bank. This amended application pertains to 16420. And I specifically filed the amended application with a request to renotice it because I was requesting additional relief related to 16420. It's just a different line of 16420, and instead of increasing or intensifying that nonconformity, it appears we're increasing the number of guest houses and dwelling units permitted. Where there are existing 2 to 3, which we can do by special permit under 164.3.
So, okay, I see in your zoning analysis, the number 1, the indented number 1, that as required by 164.20.
Yeah. It says.
But is it, I mean, I read that one to apply to the buildable upland nonconformity, which
Is in 164.20.
I mean, I don't have a dispositive opinion on this, but it's, the last sentence is troubling to me, I guess, is that in the context of what we, general notion of you know, how much do we build out? You know, the plans are great and things, but it then goes to the whole idea, is there a purpose behind the desire for a total of 8 bedrooms?
I was going to say, is there a purpose behind the requirement of the density requirement, which I think is a great question, because is it achieved by the proposal, but that's not where you're going. There are existing 6 bedrooms in this house, so again, they can have, as of right, the 2 additional buildings if they just, bedrooms if they attach it. They can get 8 bedrooms here. They just didn't like the look on the exterior of how large the structure was and have disconnected it.
I'll defer to other members for questions.
Mr. Cole?
So, starting with the setback, the coastal bank, I see that clearly you have a negative setback, and you made positive improvement there. So I'm comfortable with that relief. Building coverage, again, I think is reasonable both in your prior application and in this application for a lot of this size. And where I'm hung up is in the creation of the 3rd dwelling unit because of that same piece on 16420 that prohibits greater than 2 dwellings on any one property. So we're starting out with a nonconformity of 34,000 square feet of lot area, that the lot is undersized, and we're asking to increase that nonconformity to 74,000 square feet, that it's short. So I'm not comfortable with that. Again, comfortable with the coverage amount. Can you walk us through how you get to the current proposed coverage, which I think the only reference or the only way to get to that is on the Ryder Wilcox plan. None of the floor plans have any dimensions.
The narrative speaks to the square footage of each of the structures.
Yeah, it's on a grid.
And
Page 2.
those figures were provided by David? Or did you provide the lot coverage? You provided the lot coverage figures.
Yes,
And,
I did.
And they're on page 2 in the second full paragraph.
So that's as to existing, okay.
Sorry, where am I looking?
For existing conditions, it was in that big paragraph,
Here?
I think, yeah. But I don't see the proposed.
Proposed building coverage, I guess, is on the Ryder and Wilcox plan, and in footnote 2, it doesn't break it up by structure. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I was just curious how you arrived at that.
The 5,057 square feet of structure?
No, the 4,629
The
square
original proposal, sorry, was for.
feet of coverage.
Off the Ryder Wilcox plan, so David is here, he can tell you how he usually.
I calculated the roof area for the 3 structures, and that's how I came up with both the existing coverage of 4,391 square feet, or 7.9% of the buildable upland, and the proposed coverage of 4,629 square feet, or 8.3% of the buildable upland. And the way that, if you look at the structures, the existing cottage has been reduced in footprint significantly. The house has been reduced, the dwelling has been reduced in footprint significantly, and the garage was increased commensurately to come up with that number.
So again, I just want to clarify my question. I'm comfortable with the number. I'm just curious how we got there. For the benefit of Brian, who's going to enforce this in the future, we're asked to approve a set of floor plans that have no dimensions. So I'm trying to understand where in the record it gives us that information that then Brian has something for the record to check against.
I might have something additional.
Do we need a set of floor plans with dimensions?
I would think so.
I just,
So this is this is from the original proposal that I provided to Sarah, and I'm looking at the architect, and I'm looking for the revised. That was when the garage was connected.
I think that's the shed. This must be the shed.
Sharon, do you have a set of floor plans with dimensions on it?
so on each of the floor plans, they have the dimensions in the upper right-hand corner. They're finished dimensions, gross square footage of the structures.
Okay.
I,
Okay. So one could be made available. Yeah.
So what I did, I just made the revisions, I calculated the revised numbers, and I provided that information to Sarah, but that was how the first application, I did have that broken out.
Okay.
I'm very comfortable with the number I've come up with relative to coverage.
So the list in the upper right margin, and it's just that it's not dimensioned on the plans, is what you're suggesting?
That's correct, sir.
I think that takes care of my questions.
If I could just respond to your concern again about understanding that you're fine with the building coverage and fine with the reduction in the encroachment into the coastal bank, but have a concern about creating the new nonconformity of 3 dwelling units / guest houses on the lot. The solution is to connect the garage to the house and just fall back on our original filing, which has a greater square footage. And is that your preference?
Well, I don't want to play architect, but the garage could stay exactly where it is without bedrooms, and the house could be extended to there's a number of variables that
But to achieve the 8, obviously there's a number of variables to get to an 8-bedroom lot, 8-bedroom structure. They could in fact redesign the entire house, but I'm saying it can be done in a manner where the square footage of the building footprint is up to 5,000. And is it your position that that's more in keeping with the intent of the bylaw, because it's not creating the separate, so the trade-off is building coverage for
I don't
number
believe
of
we
dwelling
can-
unit guest houses?
I don't believe we can provide relief for a third guest house on a lot with 55,000 square feet of upland. Clearly, you can have 8 bedrooms in this lot by right. So to me,
Right.
it's not the bedroom count doesn't come into play in my read.
But you can do it by special permit, you're just feeling that it's more substantially detrimental to the neighborhood? Is that your position?
I'm not convinced that we can exceed 2.
In no
I
case.
think it's a precedent we don't want to set.
And if I recall, that was a change in the bylaw voted to limit the number of structures on a lot. I think it was something I recall shortly after moving here, of hearing that was, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I think it's, to share Mr. Coole's thought, is it's kind of the spirit of the bylaw that we're trying to take into consideration. We appreciate, exactly what your alternative proposals are. I don't know if other members of the board have comments?
It's just for me, not only for this application, but for future applications, 164.3 C, 1B, allows you to create a new nonconformity, and that's what this would be. So I don't want it to be thought, I think I can understand if it's considered you don't want to grant the special permit because it can't meet that substantially more detrimental standard. But to say that you can't get relief from that, it's a provision in your zoning bylaw that can, in fact, be, you can get relief from it by virtue of 164.3C, 1B. And we've
Can be in the operative.
Right. And no, and I think, I mean, it's kind of an important, I mean, it brings me back to the point that if we can do this as of right, with an attached garage and 2 bedrooms underneath, and albeit with a bigger structure, are we not furthering the purposes of the bylaw by granting this relief, in as much as it'll be less building coverage, less visual impact to the neighborhood, certainly less intensity of use on this lot with our current proposal. So aren't we furthering more the purposes of the zoning bylaw in Orleans by granting the relief that we're requesting?
That may be. Are there any other questions?
I mean, I guess I like the first plan better because you don't have the 3rd unit. I think that's not a direction I want to go.
I guess in theory, if we were to set the precedent,
Yeah.
what's to say that there couldn't be a request for 4 or 5 structures, provided it met the building coverage and things like that, and so it's kind of the slippery slope.
I mean, you're pre-existing non-conforming as the house and the cottage, and I definitely, that's, you're entitled to that, but you're just pushing it to do the 3rd unit, I think.
Let's hear, is there anyone else present who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak about the application in general? There's no response from and I note for the record that all those landowners who were required to be notified were notified by mail. That included the Tory Lane Association. How does that come into play here?
I don't know how the abutters, the assessor's office.
How are the Minos
derived
getting
that.
along with their neighbors in this proposal?
Well, I think they've come to the Conservation Commission hearings and spoken, and their concerns have been heard. I mean, they primarily related to keeping the structures out of that view easement and keeping that the walkway, beach easement off along the westerly border to the water open and, with no impediments to them being allowed to exercise their rights in that easement. So there weren't a lot of discussions relative to either design and the attachment of the portico or not. I think they would be happy because they're out of the easement, to be frank. I don't want to stress enough the idea that you're not creating precedent. I understand that you're uncomfortable with the notion of it's not 3 dwelling units, it's 2 dwelling units in a guest house, but the number's 3 on the lot, and that is, I understand that concern, but every single time you have a request for relief, albeit the special permit standard, which is whether it's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure, or the variance standard, it's within your discretion to make that determination. So I just want to make sure that you're looking at it through the lens of, is this proposal, as it's proposed in front of you right now, substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing proposal, simply because the bedrooms are over there rather than attached. And I have a hard time finding that, but I obviously don't have a vote. I just don't want it, a decision to be made on the idea that if you grant it here, you're going to be allowed to have, or asked to have 4 and 5 dwellings in the future. Obviously, if the 4 and 5 request results in a design that's substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood, then you shouldn't approve it. In this instance, I think we have a unique situation where the resulting proposal isn't substantially more detrimental. So if it could be viewed through that lens, rather than just either our zoning bylaw doesn't allow it or we're afraid to start a precedent, I think that's where we run into trouble.
I think there was a certain amount of finessing the plans. I'm impressed by the architectural drawings, but we have the numbers for the elevations, which were within the limits allowed by the zoning bylaw. The dimensions of the structures could have been shown, but weren't, and I'm a little bit troubled by that, but that's not a barrier either. The reason I was concerned about elevations is that the board needs to know the effect on the neighborhood. I don't see a whole lot of vegetation on this lot, and the photograph that you've included is really the view from Pleasant Bay. And although we have a beautiful architectural design, both for the north and south aspects, I just wondered how much of an increase that was, and there's no way to do that with an overlay. Apparently, no one is objecting to the size of the structures. Therefore, I think that has, speaking for myself, that has a bearing on whether or not the proposal is not more detrimental to the neighborhood. And therefore, when you start with 3 structures, and maybe this is too simple an approach, but I think 164 3CB1 allows it. You start with 3 structures, you take them down, and you put 3 structures back. What you've done is you've said one of those structures is going to have 2 bedrooms in it, and before it only had automobiles.
That's right. That's
And you may not have ever disclosed that there were 2 bedrooms there. So, we can if you have anything further, I'll close the hearing for commentary. You have a prayer for variance, and we'll have to talk about that too, I suppose.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before we close it, if in reading 163C1, C2, might have 1B2, just as to what might be involved, the alteration of structure other than single or 2-family structures, maybe on a special permit if we find not substantially more detrimental. At the end, it suggests that it shall require the special permit finding and the issuance of a variance.
Let me see.
At the very end.
The alteration has to create a new dimensional nonconformity. I'm not doing that. Or to intensify, this is dimensional, though. Those are dimensional nonconformities. We're
Does
talking
that-
use here.
But does it include the additional upland nonconformity? Is it dimensional, I would think?
That's dimensional, yes. You mean, no, we're talking about
The
40,000
Yeah.
feet per would be dimensional. That last sentence, in no case exceed 2, would not be a dimensional issue.
I wonder if that, I wondered about that, and I
Where
wonder,
are
though,
we?
if it's
Where are they?
the 40,000 square foot
No, one,
of upland,
page,
which is dimensional
164.
requirement. It's all in the same.
It's in the same section.
16420, isn't it dimensional?
No.
Because it's an upland requirement.
It has multiple parts. The 40,000 foot per unit is a dimensional requirement. The last case is in no case shall you exceed 2. just like in Table A below it, you require a minimum lot area of 40,000 feet, but footnote 3 says in no case can you exceed 15%. So
I think those are all dimensional, but we can agree to disagree. I'm not sure, whether continuing the hearing and providing you with the vegetation and the overlay to better inform you relative to the substantially more detrimental criteria and its view and impact on the neighborhood would be helpful.
I think the abutters would have been in a position to be heard in one form or another. We haven't heard that, so
We do have a
I'm not
landscape
troubled on
plan.
it myself.
Okay.
that the heading area regulations.
It was just a sidebar that I was concerned that
Not
there were
just
no
dimensional.
that the elevations were
pure.
substantially different
Usually
than the
they say
existing
dimensional
structures.
in most zoning
And that
codes.
would have had more of a bearing, some of us may have concluded, on the, what the neighborhood could tolerate than whether the increase in the number of bedrooms on the
Right.
lot, you see.
Right.
It's another way of approaching it.
Yep.
Just one of us may have thought of be thinking along those lines.
I still wonder, though, whether having continuance to your next hearing allows me, because, obviously the last line, having reviewed the bylaw, conferred with Brian and thought I had captured everything that we needed, having missed this element, I'd like to regroup, I think, with my team and confer and see what else can be done to satisfy you relative to the substantially more detrimental requirement, because, I, like you, saw it as a superficial new nonconformity. It's the exact same structures in the exact same locations, but they just have bedrooms in them, and they all of a sudden create a new nonconformity. I didn't see it as something that would hold us up. But if there's a reconfiguration of this that attaches it again, that would be less nonconforming and convince you all of that substantially not more detrimental to the neighborhood standard, then I think we should look at that.
I'm wondering whether the sense was that if the proposal were to remove the 2 bedrooms from the garage, whether the sense of the board would be that the project then would not be more detrimental than the existing use. I kind of got that sense.
But then you're regulating the interior of the structure, and you can't really get into that. It's the idea that it's a guest house, right? I mean,
I think he's trying to provide you some information that
I
will
know,
help
but
you next
I
time.
don't think that's going to help, because they need
The trouble was, again, was the arithmetic that I confronted you with in the very beginning.
Yep.
Because there, the magnificence of the differences is substantial. Mr. Cole said there was, now the nonconformity then would be 73,000 square feet.
Right.
Something like that.
The amount of upland area. Yeah. Yep.
Be- Because of the topography.
Right.
You've got that. Even without the topography of the coastal bank, you had a problem with the arithmetic.
Right.
And respectfully, I would disagree that we're attempting to regulate the interior as opposed to the use.
It's It's the guest house, right? The bedroom count isn't the issue, and I think they need, and it is important to maintain that 8 bedrooms, but where they are and how they're connected to the building, so that we don't have the use problem that you're talking about. I think
The number of...
it's something that I would like to discuss with them and come back, maybe with a new proposal. I don't know what they're going to do from here, but it wasn't on my radar screen, so I'm not comfortable with you closing the hearing.
Very well.
I mean, I think there's a majority of you who are saying that the detached use is of concern to you, given the last sentence of 16420.
I think you should be allowed the time to confer
Thank you.
and determine whether, the presentation should be exactly the way it is now.
Right.
Or in some modification.
That
I think-
eliminates that
I think
problem.
we're allowed, within the structure of your original application and the amended application, to proceed.
Thank you.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's my present sense. When do you want to come back?
When is your next meeting?
2 weeks from today.
The next scheduled meeting would be September 10th.
Really? Okay.
17.
September 17th.
3 and 14, 17. Okay.
It's my new calendar.
Would it, if we continued to the 17th and we weren't ready, because I'm not sure how long
No,
it's going
then
to take.
I don't, could we continue it for,
I'd prefer not to, because that would be the only thing on the agenda.
Beyond the
I guess-
17th, you mean?
Be the only thing on the agenda for the 17th.
Okay. So, and then
But I
2
guess
weeks
that's
after?
fine, because we just,
that would be better. That would be all the better.
if we cancel it, there's just no meeting.
Fine.
Yeah.
So then if that gives you enough time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then we can come, and if not, I'll request in writing. I'll try and do it the week before and let you know we're going to need more time. The Friday before.
I, just speaking for myself, as a matter of managing this, given that these are public hearings and there's no way to determine if it's continued to September 17th, and we allow further relief, then we don't know who would have been present on the 17th to speak about this application, even if they're not here tonight. And there are certain components that, movable parts between now and the 17th. That's my problem. I would have rather have had, so I can't be continuing it as for a good reason without appearing in.
Yeah, sure.
Not that I can't do that and come in and do it, but that's just my problem, so you see how I like to manage the hearings.
Let's say 4 weeks instead of 2 weeks, and then we'll be safer.
Very well.
Okay. So it's the first Wednesday of next month.
October.
Which we should find out.
There's a motion by the applicant to continue this hearing until the first regular meeting of October. Is
Meeting date.
there a second on the motion? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Wait.
October
You
1st.
have to say a date. October 1st.
October 1st.
Sorry.
Beth was the second.
It is exactly 4 weeks.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chairman, I'd like
Motion
to point out
carried.
that the first, hopefully, I'll be back in town on time for the hearing, but given the number of attendees, if I can't, that then presents the 4 unanimous issue. I'll make every effort.
We'll see what happens with it for the, that's true. That's true.
Might that be a problem for you?
We'll do what we can.
I mean, I'll make every effort to be back on time, but I think to point out what the implications for.
Yeah.
Then we'll see you on October 1st.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next case in hearing is case number 1990. Mr. Cole is excused.
Thought we were going to say next victim for a second.
Case number 1990 is a continued hearing. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Is the continued hearing, the application of Romani and Louise Ayer for special permit as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 9, under zoning, Orleans zoning bylaw, Section 16421A, Note 5, to change the footprint of a previously approved new construction garage, add a roof trellis, and add a concrete landing and wood ramp at the entrance to the greenhouse, resulting in building coverage exceeding 4,000 square feet. This property is located at 22 Horseshoe Lane, Orleans map number 989, parcel number 8. Let the record reflect that those members of the board to consider this are myself, regular members Beth McCartney, Ralph Soderstrom, and William McCarthy. Since our last hearing on July 16th, 2014, the board has been favored with revised plans. Mr. Zender, can you talk about what's new?
I would like to thank,
What is going, what's in front of the board?
Yes.
This time?
I will, Mr. Mark, and good evening to the board members and Sandy. And again, I would renew my request in the prior meeting that because the board is acting with only 4 members, I would like the opportunity for the chair to poll the board prior to action so that I can make a determination as to whether to request a continuance or withdrawal, Mr. Mark.
Very well.
Okay, thank you very much. At the last hearing, and if you remember, the request, the change that was requested consisted of basically 3 changes to the building. One was a small bump out in the garage to accommodate the storage of tools and materials. One was an alteration to change some open area to a roof porch area on the south side of the property, and one was to square off the greenhouse for cost reasons, all of which had involved an increase in the area of the structure. At that hearing, you know, it was a good discussion at that hearing, but you know, and again, I'm going to paraphrase my takeaway from that meeting, and I apologize if my takeaway differs from yours. But there were concerns from both, you know, Mr. Mazaris, who's here in the audience today, who's on the north, and also from some board members about the closeness of the porch on the north side of the property to the north boundary line. So, as I explained at the last hearing, the reason for these changes, you know, the bump out in the garage has to do with storage of materials, and the squaring off the greenhouse has to do with the cost of construction. But the roof porch area and all of these changes have to do with complying with these VOS2 building requirements, which we've already talked to you about enough that we don't need to repeat the lecture. So what my clients really were faced with was how do they present this in such a way that the board is going to grant the relief that they need. And so after really looking at this in a lot of different ways, and in talking to the neighbors, we decided to present the same proposal but just removing the porch in its entirety, which is a fairly significant step because it's already permitted. They can build it as a matter of right, and that porch would have been located approximately 30.7 feet from the northerly boundary line. By removing the porch, not only did they decrease the total floor area of the project, but they also removed that setback to 60.7 feet from the northerly boundary line, whereas you know in that district a 25-foot setback is required. So now the structure is going to almost 61 feet away, and it removes that 2-story structure, which originally was 2 stories with a viewing deck, from that side of the property closest to the Mazaris, which we really feel was a significant step. You know, one of the things that we talked about was taking that structure and making it a 1-story porch. You know, dropping it down a story, and we presented that to the neighbors and see if they would be okay with it. They really were still uncomfortable with any structure, you know, of that type there. So I was authorized by my client to, and Joy was authorized to alter the plans to remove the porch in its entirety. So basically they're agreeing to give up a structure that's already permitted, remove that encroachment, pull it back, and hopefully the board will see that the other additions are essentially, I don't think I'm going too far in saying de minimis changes to a structure that's already been permitted, which will allow them to continue construction to meet those VOS2 requirements and use the structure. So I don't want to belabor the point any more than that. I'd like to, you know, reserve the opportunity to address issues that come up if they come up. Betsy Furtney's with me, who is the vegetation specialist, who's identified all the plantings on the north side of the property. And then David Little's here as the engineer, and you know, if anything comes up that we need to address, we'd like to address it for you. And I'm hoping that with these changes, the 4 members will feel that this is, you know, a significant step towards, you know, accommodating, you know, neighborhood needs and their own needs. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zander. Garcia, do you have any questions?
I guess if we have the presence of neighbors or butters, I'd be quite interested to hear the dialogue, the summary of it anyway, that corresponds to the presentation, and that would certainly be helpful to hear.
Well, I don't want to try to characterize the dialogue because, again, Mr. Masri is really a good neighbor, and he's struggling with, a large structure being built on his south of his property, which is always, we had discussions, we presented a plan that we hoped would be okay with reducing that portion to one story, and again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. He's here to speak for himself, Mr. McCarthy.
Yeah,
I don't want to try to negatively characterize anything anybody's saying.
All I'm asking is
So-
that I want to hear what.
Yeah, if you want to hear from me, I would rather have Mr. Masri's characters. Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
You're not asking me to.
That's what I was
Thank
asking
you.
for.
Okay. I'm not here to throw stones, so.
I
Otherwise-
think we should allow questions of the applicant first, and then we'll hear from anyone else.
Agreed.
If that's okay.
I don't think I have any other questions.
I have
Yeah, I
none.
thought, wasn't that turned in?
No,
I'm
I'm very happy with the proposal.
Very well. Mr. Zylstra, do you have any questions?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Beth come, but I was busy.
I said I'm very happy with the
Thank
new
you so
proposal.
much. And before you go to the audience, Mr. Mark, I do understand that there was a letter from Manabata that was submitted for the record
Oh,
as
yes,
well.
there is. And as a matter of fact, for the record, there is a letter in... There isn't, let the record reflect that I have, the zoning board has received an email from a Pam Driscoll dated August 28, 2014, to the zoning board, which states in a sentence, "We support the AIR project and the proposed changes which appear reasonable in scope and not detrimental to our neighborhood. Sincerely, Pam and Dave Driscoll, 26 Horseshoe Lane." And that's received by the town clerk on, it's a date stamp on September 2.
It's my kind of zoning letter. You can read it in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, all right.
Very
Right.
succinct.
Can I ask you to, in the locus, I guess, tell us where the Driscoll's property is in relation?
They live right here. No, excuse me. No, forgive me. Where is Lyman Lane? Yes, they live right here.
Okay, thank you. It's indeed a horseshoe lane.
Horseshoe Lane that doesn't connect.
And now I'll ask whether there is anyone present in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the application of Romanian Louise Ayer. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Is there anyone wishing to comment on the application? Sir?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the effort that they've made in removing the porch structure.
And that's a new development from the last time we had the hearing in
Yes,
July.
that's correct.
Very well. Thanks for coming and making your opinion known to us. It's
Now,
important.
when they remove the porch structure, is this outside line, this 30,000 square feet, is that line going to be changed at all?
I'm sorry, what are you,
The wall?
Yeah, the
no,
wall.
the
that's-
Vostu
Just a
wall.
stone wall.
The
Okay.
Vostu wall has to remain where it is.
That's,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
that's...
that has to
okay,
remain. yeah.
Okay.
What do they call the Vostu wall? Okay.
Vostu Wall is what it is.
Okay.
Is that different from the landscape wall, or is that the perimeter?
The landscape wall, there's a serpentine-shaped landscape wall inside,
Yes.
which also has Vostu requirements associated with it. And then there's the Vostu perimeter wall.
Perimeter, that's okay.
So is it traditional that the Vasta perimeter wall be rectangle?
Mhm.
And are there certain dimensions that they suggest?
Very careful, everything,
Okay.
there's certain dimension from each one of the buildings and its relationship to the wall on each of the orientations, so.
It says 5-foot gate, is that also the height of the wall?
No height, no.
It's 5 foot wide,
It's
that gate is
wide.
5 foot wide.
Okay.
No, the
Can you
the
tell me
wall's
about the
quite,
height
it's
of the
actually
wall?
quite low. I mean, it varies as it goes around. Some parts of the wall are stone, some are fenced, but it's never that high. It's not, keep people out, it's much more symbolic of the energetic containment.
Energetic field.
Trying to keep it, okay.
There are parts on the south end which are a little higher, simply because of the level change between the inside and the outside.
Is there anything further from,
So is it going to be on the garden tour?
Oh, absolutely. He's doing a bad enough job.
If they can, people can find it.
I
Yeah.
know where it is.
I know you do, yeah.
Only if they come to the Okay.
Mr. Chairman, question, is the context of Mr. Mazzari's comments neither in support nor in opposition?
they spoke for, the comments appeared to be those of neutral gratitude.
Well said.
Fair? Okay. I was trying to get a good understanding, but, okay. No other
And
comments?
then I will close the hearing unless you have a suggestion. I'm going to ask for the sense of the board.
I would support this.
Very good.
And I also am going to, therefore,
I would like the board to proceed if possible.
then I'm going to make a motion that following public deliberation by the zoning board of appeals, a quorum of qualified members being present and voting, and based on the application of Romani Ayer and Louise Ayer filed June 17th, 2014, based also upon the site plan prepared by Ryder and Wilcox, dated February 7, 2014, revised May 7, 2014, May 23, 2014, and August 28, 2014, based also on a portion of a plan which has been marked as Exhibit 1, filed September 3, 2014, which shows.
If I may, Mr. Marnick, I'm not sure this would be part of the approval. This was just a part of, it just was for the purpose of showing some approvals on the neighboring property for vegetation purposes, so I don't think it shows any improvements to be constructed on the applicant's property.
Well, we've considered it, though, and I think it's some.
No, I'm just
It's
for the
part
board's
of-
information, I'm suggesting that it does
It's
not.
part of the record.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. No.
Okay.
For that may be so. Maybe it doesn't bear on the actual construction, but it bears on the application, and whether there's no substantial detriment to the neighborhood.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry to interfere.
And based also on the drawings prepared by A-Line Architecture entitled Construction Documents dated August 28th, 2014, page SP1. Based also on the drawings by A-Line Architecture named Proposed Design Alterations dated August 27, 2014, pages SK 2 and SK 3, based also upon the drawings of A-Line Architecture named coverage calculations dated August 27, 2014. And the drawings prepared by A-Line Architecture named Ayer Residence, page A0.1 dated April 28, 2014. A drawing named Garage Elevations, one page dated April 28, 2014. I move that the board adopt the following findings of fact. 1. Subject property known as 22 Horseshoe Lane is shown as parcel 8 on Orleans map 89 and is in a residential district. 2, the present use of the property is a vacant buildable lot. 3, the proposed use of the property is a single-family residence with an attached greenhouse and garage. The total building coverage for all proposed structures is 8,348 square feet. Did that include the porch?
Sorry, Mr. Marnick.
Okay,
That's the correct building.
Yes, that's correct.
4, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the established and future character of the neighborhood and will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. No variation of the dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw is caused by the proposed construction. 5, the construction will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the 6, the site is adequate in terms of size and suitable for the proposed use. The site consists of 90,710 square feet of buildable upland, and the proposed structures would result in a building coverage of 9.2%, significantly less than the 15% allowed by the zoning bylaw. 7, the proposed use will have no negative impact on traffic flow or safety. 8, the proposed use will have no negative impact on the visual character of the neighborhood. All dimensional requirements comply with the zoning bylaw without variation. 9, the proposed use is isolated from and will have no impact on the method of sewage disposal, source of water, drainage, or water resources. A Title V septic system is being designed and water service will be by a well. 10, the utilities and public services will be adequate for the proposed use. 11, noise and litter will not be increased after construction of the proposed use. 12, there will be no adverse impact on groundwater quality and recharge volume and the water quality of coastal and fresh surface water bodies. Includes the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Therefore, based on the findings of fact, I move that the board grant a special permit pursuant to sections 164, 21A, Note 5, and 164-44 of the zoning bylaw to run with the land. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion to grant a special permit? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you
Well,
Thanks for all your efforts.
Oh, you can always come back again.
That first hearing was interesting, was very interesting. Yeah.
What was the,
Why don't we step back? They've got here.
what was it called initially, the, just for curious, it was an interesting term, that the detached,
Savacheveda, or?
the detached portion that was,
Oh, what did you call it? It was called the grotto.
the grotto, yes.
That was
Yes.
just a, stony kind of,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that would have.
Okay, I'll see you all next time.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Board will now hear the case 1993, which is the application of Paul and Jill Morelli for a special permit as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 6 and 9, under Orleans zoning bylaw, Section 164-21A, Note 5, to demolish an existing barn and construct a new garage and pool house resulting in building coverage exceeding 4,000 square feet. This property is located at 202 Rock Harbor Road, Orleans, map number 17, parcel number 92. We have a quorum to consider of 4 members, all regular: Marnick, McCartney, Soderstrom, and McCarthy. Is there any members of the board who have had communications with the applicant or otherwise are aware of facts or circumstances which would cause their disqualification under a conflict of interest? There's no positive response. Therefore, I declare the members of the board indifferent and qualified to hear the application. Mr. Little.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as with the previous applicant, if I could have the opportunity to poll the board prior to, thank you.
Very well.
Is it pool or pool? I see that now.
For the record, David Little from Ryder and Wilcox, representing Paul and Jill Morelli. Morellis live at 202 Rock Harbor Road, and I have provided you with a site plan of the property. And if I could draw your attention to the site plan, in the upper left-hand corner, I think it's important to note that this is a condominium, and Unit 1 is owned by my clients, the Morellis, and Unit 2 is owned by Kelly Ekstrom. Thank you very much. And so I provided you with an overview of the entire property, but we are really dealing with the exclusive use area 1 and the rebuilding of an existing accessory structure on that exclusive use area. The proposal is to remove an existing barn and replace it with a garage/pool house. And in doing so, Mr. Harrison advised me that you have a policy of wanting to hear from condominium owners, and I did submit into the record a letter from the other condominium owner, Kelly Ekstrom, who does support the proposed project. That being said, the new garage, we are strictly here for relief from the 4,000 square foot trigger in the zoning bylaw. The new garage with pool house is still considered an accessory structure. The use of having the pool house in it is accessory to the principal use of it being a garage. The setback requirements, because it is an accessory structure, are its height from the adjacent dwellings. We are, the deck attached to the new structure is going to be 24.9 feet from the Ekstrom dwelling next door, and it's going to, and the garage is going to be 27.7 feet from the existing dwelling, the deck and the dwelling. So we do conform with the setback requirements for an accessory structure on this property. And
From the property line or the common area?
no, well, what's interesting here is they're exclusive use lines. It's not a property line, so there is no setback from either the Ekstrom house or our garage to the exclusive use line. The only setback requirements are to the adjacent structures themselves. It's pretty typical with a condominium that you can create an exclusive use area. For instance, you could have 4 condominium units, each with their own exclusive use area, but there are no setback requirements associated with that. The setback requirements are from the principal structure to the accessory structure, or from a principal structure to another principal structure.
Can I ask, is that based on the condominium docs, or, because normally we'd be talking about lot lines for setback purposes?
That's correct, and and that's why I wanted to show you in dark in the upper left-hand corner where the property lines were, and then where they were here. So, for the purposes of this application, there are no property line setback issues. And that's per both the condominium documents and per the way that I interpret our zoning bylaw. So that line is strictly an exclusive use line, which means that Kelly Ekstrom has the exclusive use of everything on her property up to that dashed line, and the Morellis have the exclusive use of everything on their side of it up to that line. It's strictly a use.
Can I ask, and usually I'm familiar with it too, but isn't there usually a line delineating the exclusive use area for Area 1 from what's the non-exclusive?
There are two common space areas, one in the rear,
Right.
which abuts the state highway, Route 6,
Right.
and then there's a common space area where the two driveways have more or less one curb cut that comes off Rock Harbor Road. The rest of it is exclusive use area 1 and exclusive use area 2.
So including the areas that contain the dwellings are considered exclusive use areas?
That's correct.
Ah. Usually you have the unit dimensions and then...
Well, no, I should take that back. You're correct, Mr. McCarthy. I have, what I can pass out is a, which might be helpful. I have a copy of the condominium site plan, which should be helpful in this case.
And, I mean, to put a lot of time into it, because I'm not sure how germane it is to what you're proposing, but...
What happens here is the exclusive use line is used to tie down the location of the condominium. So in the event that it ever burns down, it can be reconstructed in its exact location.
Mhm.
But for the purposes of my application, we have two dwelling units on a lot that contains 81,290 square feet. So that conforms with the zoning bylaw. It just happens to be that they're in condominium ownership, and that's why I'm showing the entire property as well as a more detailed delineation of what we're doing.
Only because I'm involved in a transaction where a similar case was did the structures pre-exist the creation of the condominium, do you know?
Yes, they did.
So then, in order to be able to sell, they,
Yes,
without the
and-
two lots, you had the only way you could do it
And
was to
as a
kind
matter of fact, they're both very old structures. They've been there for quite some time.
Okay.
And you're right. I mean, this is a case where we have in excess of 150 feet of frontage and 80,000 square feet, but by the same token, we would need 300 square feet to create two lots. So I'm sure that's why they went through the condominium process to create the possibility to sell them individually. So that being said,
Do you have this as well?
I do, I'm looking
Okay.
at it, thank you.
so, and I also provided you with a copy, with a photograph that shows the location of the existing barn and how it relates to the house. And as I mentioned, we're moving it further away from the neighbor, but we're not moving it so far away that we're creating a nonconformity with respect to the setback to our own principal dwelling. So the nonconformity that we are dealing with here is we are going from 4,515 square feet of building coverage to 4,810, increasing the coverage from 5.6% to 5.9%, 0.3%. With respect to the adequacy of the site, the 1.84 acre property is adequate for the change. The new garage pool house is located in the same area as the existing barn. The site is suitable for the proposed change. The resulting building coverage of 4,810 square feet is only 5.9% of the buildable upland. There is absolutely no new impact on traffic flow and safety. The design of the new garage, and I provided you with plans, I think is in keeping with the antique nature of the structures located in this part of Rock Harbor. The property is served by a Title V septic system and town water, and there are no drainage issues on the site. Utilities and public services are adequate for the proposed change. There is no noise and litter associated with the change, other than the temporary noise impacts that might be associated with construction. And the change will have no new impact on groundwater quality, recharge volume, water quality of coastal and freshwater bodies. And I think both my client and Kelly Ekstrom, the next door neighbor, are looking forward to this also because the barn is more or less just a haven for rodents and things like that now, and they're looking forward to having the property improved somewhat. So that would be my presentation, Mr. Chairman. You can answer any questions, fire away.
You know, Mr. Legal, does the existing building coverage of 4515 square feet include all 3 buildings on the lot?
All 3 buildings and the shed on the neighbor's lot, yes.
Then that's the correct way to do it. Fine, I have no further questions.
I'm just curious, since it's not in the definitions, you had described the pool house as accessory to the garage?
Use of the garage. If it's been my experience in dealing with Mr. Harrison, if you come in with a proposed use that is accessory to the structure, so a garage is a permitted accessory structure on a piece of property, and the pool house is accessory to that, or the use of it as a pool house, it can be permitted by right. If, for instance, we wanted to build a pool house here and do this, it might not necessarily fall under the definition of an accessory structure. Am I?
Generally, we allow pool houses if it's just for changing or something like that. As a typical accessory structure. It's been our interpretation, just like a garage or a barn.
But this is an acceptable use
Yes.
as an accessory structure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not quibbling with it, it seems that it's a pool house as accessory to a garage is a little,
I think it's all accessory structures, whether
Okay.
whether they're contained in one dwelling.
okay.
Thank you.
And the other question is that proposed dog fence? Curious.
I'm just showing everything on the site plan that they're proposing to do. They have, they want to put a fence up for their dogs so it doesn't run out onto Rock Harbor Road. And because this has to be approved by the Board of Health, I'm also showing a proposed pool fence around the pool. You're required to have a pool fence 4 feet in height with lockable gates and alarms. And so I'm just trying to show the board everything that's going to happen on the property.
I was more curious if the dog fence doesn't really involve any
No, it doesn't.
rules or anything like that.
No.
Do you have to have a
One last
alarm
question?
with the pool fence? The new regulations?
If it is accessible to a building, if you can go from a building directly to the pool, you're required to have alarms.
Little kids wandering into it. I think there was a recent example of that. And just last question, the proposed pool is not enclosed, it's open?
Yes.
No other questions?
Very well. Any other questions from members of the board?
Why are they having tandem car storage?
Because they have a limited area. They do have 2 cars, so they want to be able to pull them both in
Yeah.
and get them out of the weather.
Would they not have been able to do them side by side?
They worked with Peter McDonald, an architect, on this,
No,
and I really didn't ask them why they wanted
Okay.
that.
And then there's a deck on the back of the garage?
That's correct.
Do you usually have a deck on a garage?
Well, it goes, there's an outdoor shower there,
Oh, okay.
I didn't ask them why they have the deck there, but as I mentioned, we do conform with all dimensional requirements for the structure. It's the coverage that we're here for.
Okay, and so it has a sink. Can it have a refrigerator in a pool house and a stove, or?
I think those are the types of things that, from my conversation with the assistant building inspector and Brian, that they are expected uses for a pool house to have a sink and
Stove and refrigerator.
the bathroom,
Yeah, that
yeah.
would make sense. Okay. Thank you.
The stove, you think, does?
And one thing that I'm always very comfortable with, and oftentimes the building department will require this, if Brian ever wants a deed restriction, restricting the use of anything, and I've explained, we're always comfortable providing that.
Is there anyone present wishing to speak in favor or opposition or general in connection with this application? No positive response. Then, if you have nothing further to mention, yes?
I was remiss in not looking at the full plans, but Beth's comments lead me to it. The second floor of the
It's storage.
storage. I guess the stove question led me to start thinking about, what might be used for as opposed to,
Was it
Do we have
necessary then to put a deed restriction?
Do we have does it have a stove? I didn't.
No, it doesn't have a stove.
I don't, I know it has
Definitely space, yeah.
it has a bathroom and it has a
bathroom and
sink.
Yeah.
There is no stove shown on any plan.
okay.
I would expect they'd be grilling outdoors with it wouldn't be, or at least I would if I had a swimming pool.
So it's really like a big table
Well-
with chairs in the
Maybe you
middle.
want to bake brownies or something,
Okay.
Then I'll close the hearing and ask for the sense of the board. I'm in favor of this application.
Time as well.
Very well, then I'll proceed to a motion following public deliberation by the zoning board of appeals, a quorum of qualified members being present and voting, based on the application of Paul Morelli and Jill Morelli, filed August 8, 2014, based also upon the site plan prepared by Ryder and Wilcox, Inc., dated August 6, 2014, and the drawings prepared by Peter McDonald, architect, dated April 18, 2014. I move that the board adopt the following findings of fact. The subject property, known as 202 Rock Harbor Road, Orleans, is shown as parcel 92 on Orleans map 17 and is in a residential district. The present use of the property is a single-family residence with an accessory building, a barn. The proposed use of the property is a single-family residence with an accessory building, which is a garage and a pool house barn, a pool house. 4, the proposed use will not be detrimental to the established and future character of the neighborhood and will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. 5, the alteration and reconstruction will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing structure. 6, the site is adequate in terms of size and suitable for the proposed use. The 1.84 acre property is sufficient, and the new garage and pool house is located in the same area as the existing barn. The resulting building coverage of 4,810 square feet is 5.9% of the buildable upland far less than the 15% maximum allowable coverage. 7, the proposed use will have no negative impact on traffic flow or safety. 8, the proposed use will have no negative impact on the visual character of the neighborhood. The design of the new garage and pool house is in keeping with the antique nature of the structures located on Rock Harbor Road. 9, the proposed use is isolated from and will have no impact on the method of sewage disposal, source of water, drainage, or water resources. 10, utilities and public services will be adequate for the proposed use or change in use. 11, noise and litter will not be increased after construction of the proposed use. 12, there will be no adverse impact on groundwater quality and recharge volume and the water quality of coastal and fresh surface water bodies. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Therefore, based on the findings of fact, I move that the board grant a special permit pursuant to sections 164-43 and 164-44 of the zoning bylaw to run with the land. Is there a second on the motion to grant a special permit?
Second.
Mr. McCarthy seconds the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Then, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lumen.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you.
I think we need to keep the prior
Forgot to review the minutes.
case 1992 is like 2 filings, and we still need, should we hold on to the very first one?
1992 is, that was the application of Minot.
Yeah.
They're both that same case, right? And
They are, but when she submitted the second one, she didn't duplicate things.
I'd hold on to them. I
Okay.
don't know exactly what will come out of it.
thank you.
Members of the board, I have correspondence. Oh, excuse me. I have the minutes of the meeting of July 16th, 2014 have been circulated. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
And all those in favor?
Good night, David.
The motion carries unanimously, approving the minutes of the meeting of July 16th, 2014. Members of the board, as I mentioned before, there were two. Thank you. Thank you. There were two additional applicants or interested gentlemen being interviewed by the Board of Selectmen tonight at about 6:45. So I'll let you know whether those individuals decided to pursue their candidacy, if they're able to qualify by being sworn in and join us at our next meeting, which is
Qualified by being breathing.
Having a space.
Doesn't take much now, does it?
Can they breathe?
Can we clone?
I have a correspondence dated August 12, 2014, which we'll file from the Citizens Housing and Planning Association. This is a kind of a status report by CHAPA, which is the project administrator of, or which is involved in a 40B development in Orleans called Wise Living. I'm not aware of this project. It does have 11 affordable units, and I think it was. I don't know if you were on the board.
No, I'm familiar with the project.
Okay, and it's just indicates their stewardship since the time of the operation. There's 11 affordable units, and describes that there haven't there was one request for refinance during the past year, and there's no resales of the units. It's kind of a way
It
of...
wasn't resale.
It was, it was,
My sister tried to buy it and didn't get it.
it was, but it was kind of a courtesy letter telling us that the operation is still going strong. I
Just
have,
curious, 11 affordable out of a total of how many?
there's 11 of all, in all.
They're all affordable?
They're all
Oh.
affordable.
No.
No. No, 11 affordable units, the rest are all
Yeah,
high-end.
that's what,
Oh,
that's usually the way it goes, but.
Yeah, it's 10%.
then I misspoke out of ignorance, complete ignorance, not having known the project at all.
Not me either.
I have an email which somehow came on my desk. Is from Patricia Fallender, who's the chair of the new, or the presently existing Orleans Charter Review Committee, addressed to the town administrator with a survey. Maybe we have them in our box.
That's it.
This is it. We'll circulate this to you. It's a survey of elected town boards and officers asking for commentary on the method of, let's say, appointment or election of the board, the disadvantages or advantages to being appointed rather than elected, which is us, we're appointed.
We'd be down to zero.
Yeah, right.
Anyway,
What are the chances there'd be a board if we had to be elected?
there are, in that
There'd be
case,
no
we'll
one sitting here.
circulate them now. They're looking for the surveys, these surveys to be completed. There is no obligation, members of the board, to do so. I leave it in your own discretion as to whether you wish to
Thank
complete
you.
the survey and cooperate with the Charter Review Committee.
Get these online all the time. Please take the survey.
This is based on the blowout.
I know,
Never know where that goes, you know.
I know at least two members of the Charter Review Committee. They're all, they're diligent and intelligent and zealous workers and thinkers.
And they're asking for input by the 15th of the month if you're interested.
It doesn't look like some, right, exactly.
September 15th. Okay.
Hey, Brian, is there any setback requirements for pools?
In-ground pools is indicated. Anything above ground is the same.
Why is it only 10 feet?
What's that?
Why is the setback for a pool only 10 feet?
So you can walk beside it, I guess.
I mean, you're right on top of your neighbor. I mean, I would
I can't help you there. I didn't write the bylaw. That was before my time.
think that should be reviewed.
Yeah, take it up to the zoning bylaw task force, maybe, with the planning.
Okay.
Especially if people were to choose to swim au naturel, you know.
Finally, I have an undated notice from the Cape Cod Commission concerning a series of hearings, the first of which is September 10th, 2014, the last of which is October 21st, 2014, which is to gather public comments on the draft Section 208 area-wide water quality management plan. We'll file this, and any member who wishes to examine it may do so. That concludes the business. Is there any other business to bring before this board tonight?
I will be adjourned.
Very well.
Second.
Then,
Take care, Brian.
all those in favor of the motion seconded to adjourn? Aye.
Aye.
And the motion to adjourn carries unanimously at 8:56.